So the first part of the policy forum, we are looking at the global digital governance at a crossroads, WSIS+20, the digital compact, global digital compact, and evolving internet resource trends, assessing multilateral and multi-stakeholder developments in the internet governance ecosystem and their implications for the Caribbean and beyond. So we'll start with Mr. Rosas, online from ICANN. And he's online, but we're not hearing him in the room. Okay, so while we wait, we'll hand over to Mr. Chengetai Masango.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for the question. As you know, these past 2 years have been a very exciting time for the world of internet governance. Not since 2015, when we had the other renewal of the mandate for 10 years. So last year, we had the Global Digital Compact that was agreed upon, and which was part of our common agenda. And the Global Digital Compact set out to renew and revitalize internet governance, digital governance, and as far as we're concerned here, or let's put it from my point of view as well, is that the compact was agreed upon at the end of last year, and it was really pointed out the significant role that Internet Governance Forum, not just the Global Internet Governance Forum, but it specifically specified the national and regional initiatives, which the Caribbean IGF is part, and also the national initiatives and the youth initiatives are part of, and how they can help carry out the goals of the Global Digital Compact. And in this year is exceedingly important for us as well, because this year we seek to renew the mandate of the WSIS action lines and the global IGF as well. And as has been pointed out, that we fully realize that the national and regional initiatives are allied initiatives as such in the whole ecosystem. And this year we do have the co-facilitators from Albania and Kenya who are carrying out consultations on the renewal of both the mandate and also ideas on how we could improve the IGF, on how we can improve the WSIS action lines as well. And part of the things that we've been hearing for the IGF in particular is that, especially from the G77 plus China countries, is that there needs to be greater emphasis on capacity building, on helping those more marginalized countries and groups come up to speed, and that we should not have another digital divide that is forming, and that we should be actually going to close the digital divide. During COVID, I think it was, it was a sad situation for everybody, but the one thing that COVID did show us is that the use of ICTs, the use of information and communication technologies on how we can carry on society, even though everybody is at home and cannot move around freely. You could still socialize with your family and your friends. You could still check on parents and children, and also that you could still carry out education as well online. So that actually gave a boost to the use of the digital infrastructure. And this year, as you know, over the past couple of years, the other thing that has been on everybody's mind and is, of course, AI. And what we're also seeing is that there is a growing divide, and we're calling it the AI divide as well, that people from the global south should not be left behind on the advantages and the efficiencies that AI can bring about normal daily lives. And that is actually being taken care of by the audit in the UN system, but in the IGF and in the national and regional initiatives, we do still talk about AI. In the IGF, we do have a policy network on AI as well. And in that policy network in AI, we are specifically targeting contributions from the Global South, contributions from people who are not normally involved in the conversation with the big AI companies in the, okay, let's call it the West. So that's what we are doing. So as was mentioned yesterday as well, so what is happening now is that after the consultative process, there's going to be a zero draft that is going to be produced, and I think that is due next month. And from this zero draft, there is going to be a consultation leading up to the actual mandate renewal that's going to be voted on in December. One very important thing that I would like to mention is that the co-facilitators this year also saw it fit to have a multi-stakeholder sounding board, which would advise the co-facilitators on views and issues from other stakeholders that are not government. And this is the first time that this has happened in an area which is usually the purview of governments. And this, I would say, is a trial run. And if we do this successfully, if we do have a strong output in December, this may actually become the norm, because we do know that the governments cannot go on it alone, and since we're all here, we do believe in the multi-stakeholder model. So this is one way of joining the multi-stakeholder model in what is normally a multilateral process. So that is very important as well. I think I'll stop there, unless you have other questions. Yes.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions? Remember what happened yesterday? Those people who asked questions, we recognize them. About the process, the WSIS+20, mandate renewal, what's going to happen next year, GDC, anything. GDC is not normally my purview, but I'll try and answer it if I can. Going once. Where are the youth?
Yes, we have a hand.
Yes, okay. Any questions? Yes, please, ask.
Just a quick question in terms of how comfortable and satisfied are you with the work and the extent to which many of us within developing countries get involved or participate, if not contribute, in terms of the exercise of the governance and lending their voice? When you look, especially from those in developing countries, the extent to which we get engaged, and if not involved.
Thank you for the question. I think we have come a long way, but there's still a ways to go. The voice from the Global South is getting stronger, but it's still not the strongest voice, even though the Global South is the majority of the world's population as such. And I do believe that the Global South has a lot to contribute. As I said in my speech this morning, that for instance, the Caribbean community has a lot of expertise, especially since there are mostly small island developing nations. They have experienced challenges and have overcome challenges that enable them to connect and to advance, even though they have small communities and they cannot take advantage of communities of scale, for instance, that other larger countries can do. And also since they're highly distributed as well, and they have to take part in submarine cables, satellite, etc. That experience can also be used in the larger countries to connect communities that are isolated as well. So there's a lot they can learn, and there's a lot they can share. So at the IGF, what we do is that every single year we do an analysis, and we find, for instance, we have Angola, who has not really taken part. We have Cambodia that we have to reach out to and bring them on board and see what are the reasons why they're not contributing. Is it a lack of financing? Is it just a lack of knowledge that we are there? I mean, we do miss some people. And so each year the number gets smaller and smaller. But we still have a ways to go, and it is a community effort. So we do trust that all of you will help us on that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. One final question. If there is one single suggestion or direction that you would give for developing countries, those within the Caribbean, I suspect it's similar for those in other parts of the world, whether it's Asia or Africa. If there is that single item that you would say we ought to focus on, because as you recognize, whether it's finance, whether it's resources, whether it's people issue, we have so many issues before us challenging us. But from where you sit and with your experience, what is that one thing you think we should focus on with the limited resources that we have?
There are so many challenges, but there's also so many solutions. And I wouldn't say focus on resources, but focus on communicating. Do not be afraid to speak out. Do not be afraid to reach out. Do not be afraid to exchange your knowledge. You may think that your knowledge is, may not be good, but it is. And whatever you say, it can be built upon as well. So, and getting input from a space that thinks of things in a different angle, for instance, is actually very helpful. So it's this thing of collaborating, of knowledge sharing, of not be afraid to speak out. And as I've said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, there's absolutely no such thing as a input that's not good or an input that's not silly. Whatever it may be, it can be the seed that something good and unique and innovative grows out of.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
Well, we can always go back to me if we give Israel a chance.
Unfortunately, we're not connected.
I just saw him just now.
Yes, and he got disconnected.
Oh, okay.
So I think at this time...
If you don't have any questions, I can ask you. I can think of some questions. Sure. What do you think is the key? Just throwing the question back at you. What do you think is the key issue of this region? Anybody? Yes, if you as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for your question. Mm-hmm. You threw it back at me. Mm-hmm. I mean, from my experience, I think one fundamental challenge would be leadership. Mm-hmm. I believe that with or without resources, if you have an excellent leader, mm-hmm. you can get quite a lot done. If you have really terrible leaders, You could give them all the resources, you get nothing done. But if you have excellent leadership with a vision, passion, and a sense of human and people and their need, I think quite a lot will be done. So that would be my penny advice. Give me a good leader, and I think we'll go a long way.
Okay, thank you. I will not. Okay, I will say what I think. Yes, leadership is good, and a strong leader with a good vision is also good. But I think you also know your needs as such. So leadership can be distributed leadership. It doesn't have to be a singular figurehead that comes up and says this. You know that, okay, we are of this community, this is what we're lacking, this is what we would like to do, and then you connect with the wider community and say, okay, we have our needs. How do we get from where we are now to a place where we can have our needs? And that can be done in a community basis as such. So yes, we shouldn't really wait for a leader as well, when the leader can be a distributed leadership, the community. But yes, I mean, there's different ways of getting to points. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Rosas. So I would like to thank you again, Mr. Masango. And we would move on to, actually, I'll hand over to Terry, who will introduce the next segment.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. He's a hardworking man. You know, he's been able to speak about different topics at different times. My addition to probably what was just said about having a good leader, I think is also what you kind of said. I think it's also important to foster an environment where the people who work for and under that leader are actually self-actualizing as well, that they are great people to work with as well. Because sometimes we have great leaders who have great vision and great strategy, but if the persons are not motivated to be a part of the purpose, then we actually do have a lot of things that don't get done. Really sorry that we lost Israel, and we will see if perchance later on he'll be able to jump back on and we can connect. But we move from global digital governance at a crossroads, and we now move to exploring the role of ICP2 in regional internet registry accreditation, stability, and accountability in a changing global context. And so we're going to have, of course, Shanea, who will be here to moderate, but we're going to invite Mr. Michael Abejuela, who is remoto from ARIN, Mr. Bevil Wooding, remoto, ARIN, and we have Jorge Villa, remoto, or is Jorge aquí? Jorge Villa está aquí, and Esteban Tescano, remoto. We also have Ms. Sybel Alonso Baldor, VP Net OP, Cuban Telecom Communications or Company ETECSA. ¿Está? Ms. Sybel? Oh, fantastic. So just to repeat, our speakers for this particular section, Mr. Michael Abejuela, ARIN, remoto. Mr. Bevil Wooding, ARIN, remoto. We have Jorge Villa, representing LACNIC, and Esteban Tescano, remoto. And then we have Ms. Sybel Alonso Baldor, VP NetOp, Cuban Telecom Company, ETECSA. Shanea, over to you.
Thank you. So we'll begin with a joint presentation by Michael.
Good afternoon. Thanks, everyone, for the organization of this meeting, for this event, for this forum, and for inviting us to take the floor. We have been for 2 years participating on this kind of presentations, and we don't have so much time, so we try to be fast while speaking. I'll be here with my colleague and my friend Michael Abejuela, who is going to make an online presentation. I'll be starting my presentation about this topic. I'm going to speak in Spanish to make it faster. The presentations, the images shall be in English so that those coming from the Caribbean might be able to follow. So today, one of the topics that have been more analyzed concerning internet governance is internet governance, and I shall try to speak from the very beginning, I would say. When we talk about regional internet registries, we are talking about independent, non-profitable organizations based on membership, which main purpose are to manage and allocate and register the internet number resources in specific places, in specific sites. When we are talking about internet numbers, we are talking autonomous systems and IPv systems. Those are the issues we shall be dealing with when we talk about the regional registries. Without those elements, we don't have the internet. So this is critical and relevant in the whole ecosystem for you to understand. We are talking about the fact that these organizations work in a coordinated way in a global system, and that makes possible an adequate functioning of all these. And those are organizations with member states on them, and developing policies are done with the participation of the member countries. And this is something usual in other instances or in other levels of the internet. This is what distinguishes the regional registries. This map, I believe, have been seen by all of you for many, many times. Anytime I go to lectures, I usually use this slide. And this is the distribution, the world distribution, considering the internet register. We have 5 regional internet registries covering different geographical areas, which are shown in this image. In the Caribbean, we have peculiarities. We have 2 regional registries. One of them is ARIN, which is the registry located in the United States that includes all these 20 territories, and LACNIC is based on Montevideo, Uruguay, and includes the countries in the 13 members. Despite in some cases, some people might see this as a disadvantage. I believe has been also an advantage for them, because we can access different registries, and this made us stronger with more possibilities in the region. So it might be interesting to think about this, and those are experiences we might be exchanging, comparing. And indeed, this functioning is a positive aspect. The regional registries, the first one that was established was this one in Europe and including Middle East in the year 1992. 1993 we have LACNIC, and in the year 1997 we have ARIN that I mentioned before. But in the year 1998, it appeared LACNIC. We include there some numbers and some domains, and the issues related to regional registries of the internet started before ICANN, and that turned into the jurisdiction of ICANN. And this made possible that since the year 1997 we had some dialogues to create regional internet registries for Latin America and the Caribbean and for Africa. Those are processes that were taking place since the year 1997. And when we realized it could be possible to have all these, it appear ICPT something I'm not gonna be ICP2 I'm not gonna talk about, and this enable us to officialize the new two registers, the one from Latin America and the one from Africa, and those were the legal basis for this. Basically, this is a document published on June 4, 2001, a document that establishes the basis and requirements to be included in the regional registry. Then we have ARIN in 2005 and the other one in the year 2002. This structure is also well known by you all, I guess, is ICANN structure, but I usually show this because it's a way to explain how it was created. This group in blue, also ASO, it's a address supporting organization in charge of developing that procedure. And why they were doing this? Well, they did all the work because this is for ICANN registry. They give an advisory, and this is in the jurisdiction. So this is a group made up by 15 persons, three representing each of the regions I mentioned before. And at present time, only 12 people are present. I'm one of the representatives of Latin America and the Caribbean, together with Esteban Lescano and Ricardo Patara. And only 12 people out of the initial 15 are working in this group. Why? Because ARIN, due to some difficulties we're having at present, has not been able to establish who are the representatives of ARIN. I don't know if Michael is online. So I would like Michael to comment some about.
So thank you, Jorge, and thank you for the introduction with everything with the RER system. I'm going to take a brief moment just to talk a bit about ARIN. I know some are interested in what is going on in that region and why we don't have 3 members of the ASO from the ARIN region. So they've been undergoing some governance challenges over the past few years, and due to that, they've not been able to actually have the process to appoint their 3 representatives onto the ASO. That being said, there have been a lot of efforts ongoing to make sure that we consider the ARIN region's input with regard to the ICP2 process. We've also been monitoring what's going on there, and currently there is an election that will be upcoming in the ARIN region because they, due to their governance challenges, they do not have a court board currently, but they are hopeful to be able to have an election in the coming weeks. Right now, there's an actual call for nominees for the board of directors for ARIN, and that call is open until August 29th. And then what it looks like they'll be doing is they will have a published final voter register on September 5th. And then September 5th, they'll also be published the candidates that will be running for the board of ARIN. They will have an online-only voting election this time around, which will be September 8th, September 12th, and we're hoping that they will have a full election and be able to announce results by September 12th. So with the governance challenges that ARIN is experiencing, this will hopefully bring them to a court board circumstance that they move forward with the appointment of 3 members from the ARIN region to sit on the ASO. But one thing to note is that we've been very careful with this process, the ICP2 process, in the review, that despite the fact that there are only 12 members of the ASO right now, that we have made it available and open opportunity for those for the ICP2 review process. But they are having a lot of communication concerns, but this isn't really the point for this presentation. I know that I wanted to join Jorge on this and be able to comment on what's going on that side of the world and also how that's impacted the ICP2 review. But with that, unless there are questions or we can take some questions later, I'll pass it back over to Jorge to go ahead with the rest of the ICP2 update.
Sí, hola.
And I do wish I could be all with you in person, so I'm with that.
Okay, thanks, Michael. We go back later to you, I'm sure, with a lot of questions. Okay. Sí, sigo con este, que es más fácil. Bueno, estamos...
So Michael was explaining to us the situation of ARIN and what is happening with the organization, what shall happen with the organization, to see if they're able to reestablish the community once again and to be able to participate. How did this process start? This started in October 2023 when the Executive Council NRO, which is an entity that puts together a regional entities, which is a request of the global community of the registry. They said, ASOAC said, we want to receive help in two main tasks. One is short period help, short-term help dealing with the implementation of procedures to meet ICP2. That was the first request we had. They wanted us to review all these documents and to make suggestions about to enhance that kind of work and to make this much more robust. And the second request we had from them was they said, we need to have a design on how to strengthen ICP2, how to strengthen this process. And then we started to work on those two purposes. Many people have different interpretations of what we are doing. Different people have different theories, but in practical terms, this, on my view, have two main reasons. Number one is that we are talking about a document that is about 25 years old, and in those 25 years, everything has changed. Everything changed, many things related to the internet. There is an ecosystem that have considerably changed in 25 years. So it's convenient to update the document, but now it's late, we know, but anyways, we started to update the document. And the second thing why we retake this is that the experiences of more than 25 years and the good practices that have been adopted were not in black and white. Nowhere that appeared. So this document is going to rewrite that legacy and shall permit that people coming after us shall know to what extent we have gone, and that's going to be important. So those are the two main reasons why we decided to make this review. Which is our plan of action? We decided to use the basic schemes of internet governance, and this, of course, takes some public consultation up to reach a consensus about this all. In October last year, we published a first draft, including the main principles, the principles document with 24 main principles, which were the basis on which a regional registry might be created. The original document used to have 8 pages, but these are longer than that. And this is what we established to public consultation so that the community might tell us what they thought about the principles. We were working in the whole document, but we were able, by making this public, to align the way we were able to analyze all this. We made a public consultation from October to December, and there were different responses for the whole community, and we decided to make a review and analysis of all this feedback. This is an unbelievable kind of work, and I would like to tell you how we do this. People cannot imagine how hard we work. Let me tell you how it goes. We are 12 people doing this brainstorm all the time, debating all the topics until we get to a drafting that might be quite attractive for us, and then we align that with a consulting group, a consultation group we have, which is dealing with the regional internet registries, of which Michael is a member of, and these all have some impact in the whole system. So they might say, what you're saying is okay, but you can change this or that. And then we make the necessary amendments, and we also have a communications team the regional registries. They are unbelievable. They help us to process all the communication, all the feedback, and analyze all that, and then we're able to create a communication strategy so we can interact with communities. So there is many hours, long hours work in these regards. With this document, after we have this document, in February, we published the whole results and we started to work with the whole document. The whole document was set to public consultation in the month of April up to the end of May. And it also has some specific impacts. There were feedback from many places, including the CTU, which is an organization that sent a very good feedback. And we were talking about all these elements in the month of June. You have the QRF document. You can consult it. You shall have the presentation with you, so you might use this QR as well. The document, the draft we happen to have, has a number of fundamental pillars or lines. I shall mention four or five of the main ones for you to see what we are trying to achieve. Initially, we have the idea to establish the registry, because it happens with the internet. Everything is aligned for everything to work properly. In good faith, of course. But the protocols had nothing implemented about security and safety, because nobody thought about the misuse of the internet. The life showed different. And we created the registries, but there was no other way to create anything else. So we are recognizing the registries, and we must have a process of follow-up the registries so that the registries prove their work, and they guarantee the purposes they created for. And then we also have a process of revoking knowledge that did not exist before. So if a registry is not meeting its function, it might be possible once that document is enforced, we can again use all the implemented mechanisms to recognize new items and new solutions. Some other important elements of formalization of governance structures is properly seeing that most of the responsibilities in the registry might have the contribution of the community. We have issues related to corporate governance, the standards governance procedure, as well as some anti-capture measures of the registries. No group or no person might capture the functioning of a registry for their own interests. That is and a matter that we have learning from life. And we also have the audit mechanism, transparency, and it's important to consider continuity planning of all the operations. It is important because when there is a catastrophe and the registry is not working, temporarily is not working, that means that working must continue with the rest of the people who are working on this. So this is how the whole system guarantees a good functioning. And this is new. This appears in this last document. We decided to define as well the structures where ICANN works, and the procedures are the specified procedures and approval thresholds for proposals. This is information about the consultation we recently finished and are going to analyze this, and let me tell you which are the next steps. What is going to happen? We are about to publish, we are drafting the new version of the document by the beginning of August, the last days of August, beginning of September. Tomorrow at 8 we have 8 in the morning we have a meeting with a team working on this, just to tackle some issues before we have the final presentation. We also have a new process that is going to include some webinars. We open the thematic lines we used to have for the prior meetings, and we open these lines for the countries in the region, so that might be a feedback with those lists. There will be webinars, as I said, and I would like to say that we are planning to have a webinar by the mid of September, information webinar related to the event we are planning to have in Salvador in October. So there will be conversations about that preparation of the event. Each registry in these meetings between September and October shall have some preparation. Those working with ARIN shall have a meeting on 31st of October in Arlington, in Virginia. And the public consultation is totally closed on November the 7th after ICANN 84. Despite the issue that we have a difficulties in Cuba, we cannot have an in-presence meeting, but anyways we shall have one of our representatives in the Africa Internet Summit in Ghana from September 29th to October the 3rd, so that our representatives might take our message to give a feedback and some contribution, and we shall have people as well that are going to be in Dublin in ICANN meeting. The process indeed, it's going to be a long process of getting some feedbacks, and we hope everyone is able to participate. So we are trying to have on September the 7th all these analyses closed, and after that this is going to be the third process, the third time of the process, when we have the final version of the document, just considering some elements, considering the feedback of the people that have been consulted. And if this happens, the document shall be submitted to the executive committee, and once they approve it, we shall send that to the directorate. And in case the consultation does not go to a consensus, we still have with additional analysis. But this is a strict and very important process. So with these all, I finished my presentation. I'm gonna give the floor, I guess, to the person, the moderator.
It's our next speaker, Ms. Baldor, to make her presentation.
Sí, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es...
My name is Sybel. I'm a member of the ETECSA operator here in Cuba, And we wanted to share with you how we visualize the stability of the governance of registries for the internet services in Cuba. Our main services with a penetration of about 7.5 million users that have mobile services. And we also have a modality with a penetration at homes and public Wi-Fi services that we have deployed for years now since we were created. We have been focused on regions. In the Caribbean, we have challenges which are unique while facing the governance of the internet, mainly intensified by the lack of registries. And there are there is information that says that about 43% of the global traffic in the version number 6 in the Caribbean, 43% of the traffic corresponds basically to 41.9% to our region. So this is an important challenge based on this condition. Which are the main experiences to be part of LACNIC? We are assessing a pillar. One of the satisfactions that have been so stable, so steady, and we have been present in this since its creation. We are a member of that registry, and then we have the first IP location. Without IP, we have no internet, and that is what identifies us in the networks. So we believe that with LACNIC we have a very, very robust pillar, mainly for the region, because it has given us the opportunity to be part of the policies fora, and there is a transparent allocation of resources. And it was in the year 2017, and we have some support in that transition, which is so much wanted, and we have new challenges for our specialists in transforming a kind of big protocol, also considering the infrastructure that we have in ETECSA to support this protocol, and also to have some convergency plans. And with LACNIC, we have their support now for many years, because they offer the training, basic training, as well as the membership training, and we are able to participate in both modalities. We also have an active participation in all scenarios of LACNIC in the region, and we have a representation. And we are very proud to see that in Cuba we have been able to have the LACNIC 5th meeting and the 25th encounter. We also invite LACNIC, just in case they want to receive our support. We are more than available to do so, and Cuba might be also eager to have be hosting an encounter of LACNIC, which is also important for the organization, speaking about the technical meetings, the alignment of protocols, and the implementation of those protocols in the region. We have been looking for alternatives from operator viewpoint, so that with the availability of IP locations, we have 84%, and we also have blocks which are in the blacklist. Has been quite difficult for us to be stable, steady in the use of different kind of services that we are offering the population today. So after different solutions we have found, we also need to find mechanisms to turn the real IP to hyperfictitious and to have more availability. So we have reduced one way or another new demands in version 4. We have submitted that to LACNIC, and the organizations has now availability to work together. So this is a task we have ahead, trying to find solutions and trying to implement a transition for IPv version 6. As we are members, we have all opportunities, and we have the room, the space of LACNIC, which is named LACNIC, and we have all opportunities which are granted by this entity, and we enables us to have more control about a number of parameters that we can constantly monitor, like basically I can say those are the registries that we have, which are the services location, as well as different topics related to general contacts to identify all the IPs we offer to our users, to networks as well that might be giving some services. And we are talking here about mobile services, which is not so in our country. We have alert inclusion in some regions, and also we have a configuration to be included. And considering this all, we believe this is a strong point to be part of this organization. Mainly, we wanted to reinforce the acceleration and governance of that very much necessary transition. As I said, since the year 2020, we haven't been able to get any other ways and acceleration of these actions for our services, as well as strengthening the regional cooperation and to properly use all the techniques which are available for our specialists. And the main task to get to the change and transformation of our infrastructure may be, most of all, being given, to optimize the resources we have in our hands. So, I would like to wrap up by saying that this is an organization that is stable, it's robust, enable us to have control of our registries, and in the Caribbean to be able to have a more resilient internet with everybody prepared for future times. We have to use these kind of organizations to transform all networks and the interconnection of networks with the rest of the world. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any question.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentation. So you mentioned, I think, that the Caribbean falls under LACNIC and ARIN. There are some, when we talk about the Caribbean though, there are some overseas territories. There are the Dutch, British, French territories, and I believe those resources come from RIPE NCC. To what extent does that work to the disadvantage of these smaller overseas territories? And is this something that we think should be addressed in the new policy? Thanks.
Could you repeat the last part of?
Yes, my question is whether this works as a disadvantage to these countries in the region that are overseas territories that take numbering resources from, like, the RIPE NCC, for example. So RIPE NCC doesn't traditionally participate in internet governance policy, and this is not a criticism, it's just a fact in a regional policy development. So to what extent should that be addressed in the new policy, or how can that, or what are your suggestions? Do you see that as a challenge for these smaller territories, or for us in the Caribbean, in respect to how those numbering resources are managed for these overseas territories within our region. Thanks.
Okay, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird to have an answer for that. It's completely weird. The main problem is that we are working with 3 different registries. Okay, we're working with ARIN, working with RIPE-NCC, and working with LACNIC for all the Caribbean. But I think that each community depends on policy development process from their communities. There are rules that maybe apply in Europe that don't apply to Latin American or don't apply to North America. But I think that we are almost the same in the basic rules or in the basic things. But of course, if you are participating, for example, in Europe, or your feelings, you are out of the region. You are out of the region, you are European, you are not from the Caribbean. But I think that we might propose more things like this one, okay, try to join the Caribbeans in forums or ways to know to each other and to know what's happened, what's doing for anyone. I think the Caribbean have great diversity, but we need to be more close to each other. We need to understand our strengths. We have a lot of good things to offer. We have knowledge, we have people, we have parties, we have issues, but we are completely aware of our strengths. And I think that we need to focus on going forward with all the region and try to join the region. I know the CTU have a role in this, but maybe we can try to figure out a different space to try to join maybe on technical sides or maybe on political sides, more or less. I think that it could be good, maybe the CTU, if it can participate more in the 3 RIRs process or something to understand or to oversight or to find the opportunities to do something that to make a little outreach. That's my feelings.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you so much for this information, for this presentation about coordination policies for the internet. So my question, as you said, in the last 20 years, we had these 5 regional registries that include the whole world. With new version of the coordination policies for the internet, we can open the gate for new regional registries to emerge. Which are your ideas, your prediction? Perhaps they might answer the question, is it possible we have a new registry in the Caribbean that includes the geographical areas which are in the 2 other registries? Do you see that? Do you think we have 5 or with a new version of a policy that renews? Sees once again the rules for new regional registries, and also considering how much we have with IPv6 version 6. This is an option that we might have more than 5 registries. We might have one more or many others more. But what happens with all this? The idea is not having many registries, because the issue is that this is a complex kind of operation, and the coordination is so complicated, because the more participants we have, the more difficult it turns. So that goes against the functioning of the system, even when the document might enable us to include another registry. Perhaps it might be analyzed, assessed. We'll think about that, and we'll try to propose to have a registry only from the Caribbean. It might happen, but might not. I'm not telling you it's impossible, but those are entities with quite a complication, though it seems to be they are so simple that they function properly, and they do indeed, because people work hard. It's like good singers that seems to be they are not doing anything with the voice, but to achieve the register, the voice big, they have to do many things. So I believe that might be a possibility. If there is a need and the possibility both existed, it might happen. Today, makes no sense to have it, because at present times everyone depends on version 4, which is a reality, and of course, unfortunately, it doesn't seem that it's going to be disappear in short term, though life is telling us that we have to get out of that. We're still using IPv, this version 4. So it's not possible to have it disappearing in short period of time. While it is existing, it makes no sense, because we have no ways to attain resources. So to offer clients, if in the world there is a second area in which the problem and the basic resources exist, it might be a possibility. Yes, we might have another registry. That might happen as well. Yes, there are countries thinking already about having the real of this or that country. And we are not talking about national register, we are talking about regional registries. A region that included a number of territories. So first thing is to begin with what I was commenting here. Just to begin by having in the Caribbean better presence or participation as a region, and also to do better united work and better communication, and also to see if those possibilities appear. If we feel that we have to make step forward, we can do that, even given that that step forward enables us to generate a new registry for the Caribbean, so that it offers what is not offered today, but anyone or what we could have today, which is not offered because it's not the interest of others. This is my response.
So if you'd like, I could just comment briefly that I know there was that one question about the RIRs and ICP2, and there is definitely a thought that people are looking at, could there be new RIRs? Just as a note, that's actually currently in the place now, even if we didn't have to go to a review of ICP2. That has always been the policy, to see if there would be a way to qualify new RIRs. And in fact, that is how we found ourselves with LACNIC and AFRINIC, was through that process. So what this is really is strengthening and kind of making it more robust when we have the new version of the document that is currently under consultation. But I know that from the comments that we have heard, yes, there is the possibility of new RIRs. I think that the new regional internet registries, but the consensus seems to be, or at least the feedback that we've been getting from the community, is there isn't a desire to have a proliferation of regional internet registries because of the work that we do and some of the technical background that we have to make sure that we don't have a tremendous amount and in fact, when there's any kind of addition, that we are looking for a way to make the system better. But in the meantime, given the question that about the Caribbean and having a regional internet registry serving just the Caribbean, I really do implore that there be participation and really look to ARIN and LACNIC as the RIRs that are serving the Caribbean. I know that it's split. I know that there are certain countries in the Caribbean that fall under our jurisdiction and then some that fall under LACNIC's. But we try to make a concerted effort to make sure that there is a voice, that there is participation there in the meantime. And maybe one day there will be a need to look at the potential for another regional internet registry. But I do implore everybody there with all of you to make sure that you participate in our processes, because we try to make them completely open, bottom-up transparent processes and inclusive for everyone that has an interest there. But I see perhaps Bevil is ready to present. There he is. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Michael, for holding the fort for me. I'm going to just share a few of the points on my presentation. For some reason, it's not coming up, so I'll just talk through some of the key points. For those who don't know, ARIN, the American Registry for Internet Numbers, is one of the 2 regional internet registries servicing the Caribbean. In the case of ARIN, we actually cover most of the English-speaking Caribbean and several French territories in the Caribbean. And so our service region would be Canada, North America, and these Caribbean territories, and a few over in the Pacific. ARIN supports the operation of the internet through the management of internet number resources, and we've heard about those over the last few days, IPv6, IPv4, and it coordinates the development of policies by the community for the management of these internet protocol number resources. But ARIN also advances the internet through its information outreach, and that's part of what I would like to focus on specifically today is the ARIN Caribbean initiatives. We have several programs that are tailored to the unique needs of the Caribbean, and you have seen that in the form of the Caribbean Forum, where we meet with judges and lawyers and attorneys in our Justice Forum, or we meet with the technical community, those who are responsible for networks, as part of our collaboration with the Caribbean Network Operators Group. But ARIN also works very closely with the CTU, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, and other internet organizations in supporting general capacity building and awareness building in the region. As part of our support for building Caribbean capacity, we also have fellowships and opportunities to serve or function in the governance of ARIN itself as part of the general bottom-up approach or the multi-stakeholder approach that is fundamental to this Caribbean Internet Governance Forum. The key to our interface in these areas is the ARIN Government Affairs Department, and I'm a part of that department. Michael leads or heads up the ARIN Government Affairs Department. And the Government Affairs Department is our bridge to governments and policymakers and regulators and other intergovernmental organizations. In the Caribbean, this means ensuring that regional priorities are visible in global discussion, whether at the Global Digital Compact, WSIS+20, or even in ITU deliberations. We are always advocating for the multi-stakeholder approach, and we also support partnership-based capacity building. In fact, the ARIN relationship with Caribbean organizations would typically be centered around supporting the development of Caribbean capacity, not just to participate in various multi-stakeholder fora, but also to shape this connection between internet policies and national digital agendas. One practical way we do that would be in the support for things like critical internet infrastructure, IXPs, or in the promotion of IPv6 adoption, the new and necessary number resource underpinning for the internet. And of course, we also play a very critical role in cybersecurity, in promoting routing security through Resource Public Key Infrastructure, RPKI, which some of you may have heard about. Now, how does this all relate to the subject for this panel, where we're looking at global digital governance at a crossroads? I want to close this presentation by just making a couple points about the issues around the current tension between multi-stakeholderism and multilateralism. and how that impacts the Caribbean's positioning inside of the global internet governance landscape. On one side, you have the proponents of multi-stakeholderism or the multi-stakeholder approach, who say that this offers agility, it offers inclusiveness, but then the critics say that it risks lacking enforceability. And on the other side, you have multilateralism, which is the model more familiar to those within the UN structure, that offers governments or nation states the opportunity to develop policies that are binding and are enforceable, but it also often comes at the expense of agility or ease of evolution to respond to changing or shifting trends. And so we find ourselves at this crossroads where is it either or, and is one better than the other? Well, the truth lies somewhere in between, and I hope just in terms of framing not necessarily a position or conclusion, but in looking at what this battle between these two poles represents for the region, how can we, as part of the Caribbean Internet Governance Forum, find balance, striking the balance between the needs of the Internet, the Caribbean, and our own requirement to ensure that our voices are heard and that our interests are understood. With the multilateral approach, large powers tend to dominate negotiations, and this often dilutes the influence of smaller states. The process is slow and bureaucratic. But for those inside of the multi-stakeholder model, which has a proven track record and which has actually facilitated the growth of the Internet and the scaling of the Internet, we know that it allows for diverse expertise and perspectives to be brought to the table, but it lacks binding enforcement. And outcomes are often seen on the international stage as soft norms. And there's also, because of the challenges, particularly by small states or developing states, there's also the risk that the discussions, conversation, priorities can be captured by private sector actors or other large or influential players, unless checks and balances are put into place. So where does that put us? Where does that leave us? I want to put to the room that the region and even the world is facing a choice where we have these two questions. Do we centralize digital governance in state-centric or treaty-based institutions, or do we preserve and strengthen the distributed bottom-up multi-stakeholder ecosystem that has underpinned the Internet as we know it? How do we resolve this core tension? If we think about these two questions, centralized digital governance versus preserving and strengthening distributed bottom-up approaches, we can see that this is not just about a process, it's actually about values and outcomes. On one side, there's the emphasis on control, sovereignty, and geopolitical interests. On the other side, there is openness, innovation, inclusiveness, and shared stewardship. One brings legitimacy but risks rigidity. The other brings agility and inclusivity but risks fragmentation without some degree of intergovernmental recognition. And so for the region, I want to leave us with these thoughts. Our strategic interest lies in defending the multi-stakeholder model because it amplifies the voices of small, emerging, and developing states. But our interest also lies in engaging in multilateral spaces to ensure that very real sovereignty concerns can be represented and to avoid decisions being imposed without appropriate local or regional input. In that regard, ARIN participates in a number of these multilateral fora as observers, tracking discussions, tracking the overlap of policy priorities, and also supporting those within the ARIN service region and those within the wider Internet community in understanding how these dynamics relate to national and regional priorities. We are here to serve. As Michael indicated, we participate in a number of fora where these discussions are real and where the concerns and priorities deserve a hearing and ventilation. And for this CIGF, we continue to support the work of the CTU and of those of you in the room who are concerned and interested in an open and secure Internet. And I hope that this short presentation has been a useful part of framing your considerations for how we move forward from this place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wooding. Very informative and very thought-provoking. We have a question.
Thank you. It's a question, but it's more of a comment than a question.
Más bien una observación. Yo sencillamente.
Over the 21 years of the IGF, ARIN has been there. Certainly LACNIC, we have an MOU with LACNIC towards cooperation in internet development in the region. ARIN goes beyond even the regional discussions to support the CTU's participation in international policy development within spaces like the ITU. It supports youth development. So I wanted to state that publicly, and also to say that the discussion around whether there's potential for greater focus on the Caribbean, not necessarily the creation of a Caribbean Internet Registry, even though maybe let's talk about that for a little bit. But to emphasize, yes, we do get excellent support from both LACNIC and ARIN. But I think the question around the territories in the Caribbean and how we see the Caribbean as independent states, as overseas territories, in some cases parts of Central America, Latin America, I think it's something that's worthy of a discussion at a future, on a future occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. I'd like to thank our panelists, and I'll now hand you over to Terry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much to our presenters, those that are in the remote. So I just want to, Mr. Michael Abejuela, Señor Bevil Wooding y el Perrito. Yo tengo que decirlo porque imagínate.
I must say this because this can't happen. But this kind, Mr. David is a great professional. Imagine the dog has been there. You know, the dog was wagging his tail, and the dog was making a lot of noise, and the gentleman was just like this, you know, normal, you know, speaking and sharing his knowledge and his views. And while the dog was making its presentation too. Don't say Shanea.
One more, preparing stakeholders for participation, innovation, and representation in ICANN's expanded gTLD program. We're going to welcome Mr. Albert Daniels. He's joining us remotely. He was on not too long ago. There he is representing ICANN. We hand over to you. And of course, Shanea Lewis maintains as moderator.
Harry, and I will agree with you that Bevil is a Caribbean star. And it is this spirit of collaboration and spirit of driving the Caribbean continues to move forward. And I'm happy to contribute in my small way with regard to talking about the next round of the generic meetings. And as the technical team, the slide up, I'll just make a little clarification. I don't know if it's better update or not. But I'll just make a little clarification and the comment with regard to ICANN and this whole multi-stakeholder model that we have been talking about. So when we hear the term ICANN, really we're talking not just about an organization, the ICANN organization, but we're really more importantly talking about an ecosystem, which includes three main components. And these components are, first of all, the multi-stakeholder grouping, which are representatives of civil society, private sector, end users, governments, business, and technical community. And this is the real core of the ICANN system. You heard a little bit earlier from two of the regional internet registries, LACNIC and ARIN, and the regional internet registries form a major part of that multi-stakeholder grouping. And the way it works is that these stakeholders propose policy, develop policy, review policy, and then they pass those policies out of the document. But then eventually, when they have a final draft, they pass those policies to the board of directors. And then the board makes a decision after public comment. And finally, if the decision is a positive one, to move forward. So the point here is that this multi-stakeholder model is very important in terms of harnessing the feelings of all of the stakeholders and moving forward in a very open and transparent way with regard to policy. Very critical that all of us as stakeholders from all of the different stakeholder groups pay attention to what's happening in these international forums and make their contributions. You can make them through ARIN, you can make them through LACNIC, you can make them directly through. So I wanted to call the new generic top-level domain name program. First of all, I would explain what these new gTLDs are, and then explain also what our applicant support program is. So I'm talking generally about the program, the new generic top-level domain name program. Then we'll talk about the applicant support program, what we call the ASP, and then we'll speak about the efforts that ICANN has been making to circulate the on the next round and the applicant support. So the first question we need to answer is, what is gTLD? What is the generic top-level domain? On this slide, you see the domain name ICANN.org, and TLD is those three .org to the right of the last dot. This is what a top-level domain name is. And there are some top-level domain names that we've become accustomed to. Those are there from the beginning of the internet, .org, and so on. So in 2012, there was an expansion and evolution of the domain system of over 1,200 names. And you see some of the examples there: Paris.dance, .charity, .chase, and so on. And you also see some that are in script different to the English speakers, normally Arabic and Chinese. But there's also been an expansion in that area as well. So with this last expansion, what we found, although there were opportunities for developing countries and underserved regions to actually participate, we did not find the type of participation from that we would have liked to see. And the next one. So the next round, the expansion of the generic top-level domain name could be characterized in terms of success by how many applications that are now coming from voices and languages and from that we did not have in 2012 expansion. The domain name system is going to be opened up roughly in April 2026 to new entities that are interested in these new strings. Next slide, please. So there will be opportunity for tailoring these generic domain names for businesses, for communities, for cultures, for geographic locations like cities. Governments, if they decide actually the opportunity to have their own top-level generic domain name, and targeted customers and memberships can also use them, and it will be an expansion in diversity of new scripts. Now, earlier, yesterday, I remember Tracy Hackshaw gave some examples of how .post was being used. And this is an indication of what can actually be done with a new generic top-level. Next slide, please. So there will be new domain names that also can be used in new ways. They can be used for building inclusivity, providing audiences and customers choice via their own script. They provide groups with the opportunity to create their own space online. As Tracy said yesterday, they will allow the managing the top-level domain names to trust particular brand, and also organization running top-level name would be able to manage the online presence more efficiently. You see some examples of domain names could be .photography. And so, next slide, please. So we now look at some benefits of actually operating your own top-level domain. course, as you heard from me yesterday, you have complete control over your brand. If it is a brand you have used as a top-level domain name, BMW, IBM, .massey, Caribbean, in the Caribbean, you control the policies associated with that top-level domain. So if you choose to be flexible by having email addresses and subdomains, for example, .massey, Barbados, St. Lucia.massey, be able to keep the branding that you would like for your domain all the way through to whoever uses those domain websites or who uses for email addresses. And as I explained, you can localize the domain name in the case of companies like CTU and Massey by having the Caribbean code directly below those domain names. And very importantly, you are able to control the security of that top-level domain name and all of the combination. To the left, you can monetize top-level domain name as you wish, and there is increased credibility when users use those top-level domain names. Next slide, please. So running your own top-level domain name is becoming a registry operator. And when you apply for your GDC, you take on the role of managing a critical part of Internet's infrastructure. It is not a trivial operation. Next slide, please. And it requires substantial financial and technical considerations. And these need to be carefully considered when you actually embark on the process of getting your own new top-level domain. And slide, you see some information regarding the financial aspect of applying for a new top-level domain. Next slide, please. What I wanted to talk about next is the applicant support program. Next slide, please. And the next one, next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the applicant support program, which ICANN has instituted to make it a little bit easier, particularly given the financial requirements, technical requirements for countries in the underserved regions like the Caribbean to participate in this evolution of the Internet, to participate in the expansion of the Internet. And the criteria for countries or organizations actually participating is displayed in this particular slide. To be eligible for assistance through the applicant program, you must demonstrate that there's been business diligence, public responsibility, due diligence. You must be able to justify financial need. Operation must show that it can be feasible, and must meet requirements as an eligible entity. Next slide, please. So next slide will show who the eligible entities can be. Could you advance the slides, please? Next. Good. So these are eligible entities: profit organizations, non-governmental organizations, charitable organizations, intergovernmental organizations, indigenous and tribal people and organizations, and very importantly for us in the Caribbean, micro, small businesses that are social enterprises or that operate in a developing economy. I think most of our companies in the Caribbean qualify as operating in developing economies. So these are the organizations that can take advantage of the support program. And what does this applicant support program provide? Next slide, please. The applicant support program provides financial and non-financial assistance to qualified and eligible entities. So there's up to an 85% reduction in the applicable fee, which I showed on the previous slide, for application and evaluation. There is reduction and waiving possibly of base or registry of fees. These are the ongoing fees, and there's also credit if an applicant developing part of the applicant program and they end up in the bidding process, gets access to it. But not only is there financial support, but also training materials, capacity development is available, and several organizations who have provide professional services free of charge to entities that are interested in getting the top-level domain names. Next slide, please. So next slide actually gives an indication of some of the important dates. And this work has been going on for some time, November 2024. And the next significant thing that's going to happen is that there are already drafts published, but applicant guidebook that gives all of the procedures, all the guidelines for applying for a top-level domain and also applying for a string is going to be published by November 2020. The guidebook is already out for on ICANN's website, so you can start taking a look at it. You also, if you are interested, you know that applications for submission to the ASP, the Applicant Support Program, will be allowed from 19th of November 2024 all the way to the 19th of November this year. The point there is that organizations interested in their own top-level domain are still able to apply for the Applicant Support Program. And in the end, the plan is that by roughly the third quarter of 2026, we should be seeing submissions for top-level domain. Next slide, please. So, next slide. So ICANN has been engaging in different forms of to try to put this information out to companies, organizations, entities that can get new top-level domains. And what we've been trying to do is seek ways that we can contact with and share information with interested in top-level domains. And the thing about it is we've been doing webinars, we've been speaking at events like I'm doing now, all in an effort to make sure that those who may be interested in participating are actually having all of the information. And the ICANN community team members are able to get information from ICANN staff. We have toolkits that are available, which we allow you to also promote and share information on this opportunity. And we have also been using social media to get message out as well. Next slide, please. So we are extending an invitation to collaboration on capacity development, collaboration on communication, and outreach with a focus on global inclusivity. And these are important to making sure that the next round of generic top-level domain is successful. Our outreach and engagement efforts are leveraging existing relationships as we are doing now with the CTU in making this presentation here at the Governance Forum. Our ICANN team globally are trying to share this information with business, with governments, with end users, that at the end of the period of sharing this information, as many entities as possible would. So you can actually good. So you can actually play a role in building more inclusive internet by assisting in identifying and monitoring potential applicants, both the applicant support program and also the new generic top-level domain program, including country. territories where they may not be able to have their own established domain names that can support a new registry. So next slide, please. You can also become a next round generic top-level domain name program champion. ICANN has established a program for giving individual organizations all the resources we need for themselves to become a champion with regard to spreading the word. For example, CTU and the individuals participated Youth Internet Forum, those who are in here can get this with all of the data, which would allow them to share the information and potentially compete with applicants for the generic top. So that is a slide that just to show you links that you can use to access information. You can stay informed by these addresses first of all, and then you can also visit websites from the ICANN website, which gives.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I'll now hand over to Terry.
Thank you so very much, Sir Daniels. We really do appreciate it. Shanea, thank you very much for moderating. Could we just kind of take a second to dar un gran aplauso for nuestros traductores? Nuestros traductores. Claro, a las presentaciones y la persona que ya han presentado, muchísimas gracias a ellos. Pero ya damos cuenta que tenemos.
We realize that we're having some technical issues with the connectivity and the signal and the English and Spanish, and I just wanted to recognize the effort being made by the interpreters who are at the back in spite of what is happening. I want to thank you for the service, and we highly appreciate it. You know, we got 10 minutes because we have another session to go through. Pero nosotros queremos darle también un receso de 10 minutos para el café. So we are running behind schedule. We got 10 minutes of coffee, and then we talk. But we dance. If we are dancing, we're dancing inside the room here.